This is a quick tutorial on how to read calipers in the forensic science classroom. Let's start with how to read the outside of an object. If you're measuring the outside of the object should go in between the two pieces of the caliper here. When reading the outside, please measure from the outside where it's labeled. We'll find the 0, and then that will be our base for where we're starting with our numbers. Please note that we are working in millimeters here. So each one of these little lines will represent 1 millimeter. So looking at where our 0 is, the closest number that we see here is 30, and then you'll notice it's not quite lined up with 30. So we know that it's going to be a measurement of 30, and we're going to have a decimal on this. To measure the decimal, we're going to look at the top measurements here on the outside of the caliper, and we're going to try to find one of those lines that matches up best with one of the measurements on the middle of the caliper. So looking at my lines, not this one, not this one, not this one, but it looks like this one right here lines up exactly with the one underneath it. So that tells us that we are going to have 30 and 0.1234. So 30.4 would be our outside measurement. When looking at the inside measurement, this would be if you were putting this on the inside of an object. So like if there were a hole specifically, you would use this on something like the nasal cavity. You would put the calipers inside the object and measure using the inside part of the caliper. In this case, again, go to our 0. It looks to be about right here. So we know we've got 40, 41, 42, 43, and it's not quite lined up. So we know it's going to be 43, and let's figure out our decimal. Looking at these lines, not quite, not that one. I think this one right here lines up just fine. So that would be 43 and 0.123. 43.3 would be our best option here. Moving down to some example problems. Here's an example of a skull mug where we are measuring the outside of the mug. Notice that we are on the outer edges of the mug and the object is within the insides of the caliper. Here's a quick zoom in so you can see the measurement a little bit better. Again, we are measuring the outside, so make sure you're looking at the outside of the caliper. Find our 0, which is right here, and you'll notice that we are at 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85. And I think this one actually lines up just right with where we need it to be. So I'm going to say 85 and 0. So 85.0 millimeters would be our best option here. Whereas if we were to look at the inside of the cup, notice now that we are measuring with the calipers on the inside of the mug. So we're pushing those calipers out. And just a quick close-up at the inside of that, we're going to look at the inside portion of the caliper. Find our 0. We'll notice that that's just over 70, so we're going to say 70, and let's find where our decimal lines up. No, no, no. I'm going to say the 0.5 is going to line up here the best. So we're going to have 70 and 5, so 70.5 millimeters. Here's one more example of a plastic skeleton dog where we're measuring the ear from top to bottom. We are measuring the outside of the ear, so it should fit within the caliper. When looking at this, please use the outside measurement. Go ahead and pause the video to find the outside measurement of this dog ear. When you're done, please continue. Checking our work here, we're looking at where our 0 falls, which would be right here, which would be 60, 61, 2, 3, 4, 65. It's not quite lined up, so I know it's going to be 65, and let's find our decimal. I'm looking at This one right here actually lines up just perfect. So let's figure out what that would be. 65.1234567. 65.7 millimeters would be our best option here for the dog ear. Let's try one more practice example, except with the dog's back leg. Again, this is measuring the outside of the dog leg so it fits within the caliper. When measuring this, please measure with the outside portion of the caliper. Feel free to pause the video and check your answer when you're done. Checking our last problem here, let's find our 0. Our 0 appears to be just shy of the 21 line, so we'll say 20, and let's find our decimal. In order to do so, let's find one of those decimal lines that lines up with the caliper lines in the middle. I like this one right here, so let's count 20.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 millimeters. 20.9 millimeters would be our best option here for the last answer. Please make sure when using calipers in the forensic science classroom, you are as accurate as possible. So if you need to take a measurement more than once to check your work, please do so.